Don't worry, Captain. We'll buff out those scratches.
All right, never mind it. Just jump out when I give the signal. Huh?
Hey guys, cite your fucking sources here. Hey guys, questionable lighting here. Hey guys, Commie Jew here. That's right, I'm actually a hardcore communist sympathizer, and I let it slip on Filthy Frank advises the German High Command. I'm sure you noticed from the intro, but this video is actually about one very specific ship, and I haven't even looked for footage yet, but I'm almost certain it doesn't exist, so you have to look at me the whole time. I'm sorry. The ship in question is DD-579, or the USS William Porter, named after Commodore William Porter, who was actually a fairly interesting character on his own. But he has nothing on the actual ship, which Wikipedia describes as predominantly remembered today for the string of extremely unfortunate events that plagued her short 3-year career. So it's kind of a meme ship. I really gotta stop using that. 3 of the last 4 video titles had meme in them. I'm becoming a meme by using meme too much. Anyways, the USS William Porter was a Fletcher-class destroyer, had 5 5-inch guns, quite a few anti-aircraft guns, 10 torpedo tubes. It was a good time. Commissioned on 6 July 1943, right out of the gate, it began its long string of bad luck, starting with leaving the docks for the first time. Now, the story goes that when the Porter was leaving the docks, it brought its anchors up, but didn't bring them up all the way, which caused the anchors to interface with the 2 ships next to her, causing quite a bit of damage to both of them. And this is where you get into one of the problems with this ship, because there's quite a few stories about it that are very unsubstantiated. They're not in the ship's logs, and there's not really too much record of them, but the stories have been retold over and over and over again. So this first story may not have happened, and there's a few more that I'll mention, but the stuff that really did happen to it is hilarious enough. After this first mishap, its first mission was to escort the battleship, the USS Iowa, to North Africa. The USS Iowa was going to be carrying President Franklin Delano Roosevelt as long as a few chiefs of staff to go to the Tehran conferences. Now this seems about as easy of a job as you could get, right? You and a bunch of battleships are just crossing the ocean, look out for U-boats, right?
Wrong.
It's not that simple. So the first of many mishaps on this journey happened when the USS Porter accidentally threw a depth charge over, and it detonated in the water, making everybody think there was a U-boat, and emergency action was taken. Now, this is also one of those stories that doesn't quite hold up to the same scrutiny, but it's a little more well-documented than the other one, so this one might have actually happened. One thing that is completely documented, though, is one of the boilers messed up in the ship, and it had to kind of drag behind for a little bit while it was being repaired. But the biggest thing that happened to this ship, and probably the most hilarious thing, was when it accidentally almost killed the president. You see, FDR was a huge fan of the US Navy. He'd been a sailor previously. So as Roosevelt is going along with the Navy, he wants to see the Navy show off some of its prowess. And he asked the USS Iowa to do an anti-air drill, showing off how well they can shoot down enemy planes. Now the way this is done is, they launch a bunch of balloons into the air, and the Iowa shoots them down. Simple enough. The Iowa missed a few of these balloons though too, and the Porter got involved shooting down some of the balloons. It's at this point that FDR also requests that some of the escort ships show off what they can do in the form of a torpedo drill, of which the target is going to be the Iowa. Which is your first mistake. Like, there's no room for error there. Anyways, the Porter readies its torpedo throwers, fires the first one to no effect. Nothing happens, it fails to launch. The second one it fires, though, careens into the water right as some of the people watching realize it's an actual live torpedo. And of course they panic, trying to figure out how to tell the Iowa that this was happening, because of course this is a very secret mission. The president didn't even want the people in the US to know that he had left. He was meeting with people for a very important meeting that the Axis could not know about. So radio chatter was pretty much prohibited. So the Porter, not wanting to break orders, decides that they'll signal the Iowa with a signal light. The only problem is whoever was doing this, I get the feeling, didn't know what they were doing. Because they first signaled the Iowa that a torpedo was coming from the opposite way, and there's no way they would have known that. They can't see through the ship to the other side of the sea. And second, they signal that the Porter is going to start backing up, which made no sense to the Iowa.
That doesn't make sense.
It's only after the torpedo looked like it was going to hit the ship and had been going for a while that they decided it would probably be worse to kill the president than to break radio silence. And they say something along the lines of,
"We fucked up.
Live fish in the water, evasive action." The captain of the Iowa then takes evasive action and barely careens out of the way of the torpedo, which explodes in its wake. Although apparently FDR didn't give a shit and just thought it was the best thing ever, because records say that he asked his aides to wheel him over to the side of the ship to see the torpedo incoming. Dude doesn't give a fuck. Anyways, after this, the porter was sent home and an inquiry was to be made about what happened. And it's at this point that we get to another false story about the porter. It's been repeated over and over again that Marines were waiting at the dock to arrest the entire crew. That's not true. Only one person got arrested. Chief Torpedoman Lawton Dawes. And it's pretty understandable as to why. I mean, he almost killed the president out of negligence. However, FDR intervened on his behalf and commuted his sentence because he figured it was just an accident. Good guy, FDR. But it is decided that maybe the Atlantic isn't quite the place for this ship, and maybe we can change its luck by sending it to the Pacific.
This whole crew for eternity thing isn't working out. It's not really you so much as it is me.
You're setting us free?
Well, actually, I'm just gonna
Send you to the fucking Japanese."
This is not before, though, an unconfirmed report of one of the 5-inch guns accidentally firing at a US military base. Although I really don't think this one happened, it's even more poorly sourced, but it's just kind of part of the mythos. When in the Pacific, the Porter did the same things that all the destroyers of its class normally did. Escorting, fire support, and shore bombardment. And it actually spent a lot of its time in the Philippines, but it got there too late for the invasion of Leyte. Fun fact, my grandfather was part of the initial invasion of Leyte. He was only there for 2 days. After a while there, the ship was selected to take part in the invasion of Okinawa, where it did much of the same things offshore supporting the invasion. But anyone who knows about the Pacific can tell you that Okinawa is where the kamikaze problem got really, really bad, and the Navy was taking a lot of casualties because of it. Because of this, they sent out detachments of ships as kind of a forward warning thing where they would scan for radar and then radio the fleet that a kamikaze attack was incoming. And the Porter was selected for this job, where on June 10th, 1945, its run of bad luck came to a head. A single outdated D-3A Val dive bomber made an approach on the ship, and the crew was able to shoot it down and have it splash in the water. However, they were not able to destroy the plane before it hit the water. So the plane coming in with all this velocity hit the water, went down, and floated beneath the Porter, where it detonated, causing the ship to rise out of the water from the explosion. The crew spent quite a few hours trying to keep the ship afloat, but eventually they realized it was a lost cause as the ship began to go down. However, this is where the Porter's string of bad luck actually ends, because not a single casualty was taken either in the initial explosion or the sinking, as nearby ships were able to pick up the entirety of the crew.
Everybody lives, bros.
So I guess it did have good luck where it counts. Sorry for the change in format. This thing probably won't be usual. It's just, this was a fairly obscure topic, but one I really wanted to do upon request. You know, I said this in a Patreon Q&A already, but I'll say it again. I feel like I almost should have instead been one of those commentary channels, because this whole thing is so much easier than the normal thing. Like, I didn't have to write a script. I have my notes here, but, like, that's it. If you took the research out of it and you're just talking to the camera as your opinions, I mean, this thing's easy. I did rip off someone's format pretty hard, though. But that's like a good amount of this website. I would like to thank my patrons on Patreon for making this possible, but especially on this one, as this was a custom video request made by Aaron Seufert, and I'm very grateful that he informed me about this topic and had me make a video on it. It's been super fun. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.